Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every man's life, often somewhere after the age of 50, when he wakes up one morning and realizes something has quietly shifted. It's not just about energy or stamina or how he looks in the mirror. It's deeper. It's that inner hum, that current of vitality that once powered his ambitions, his focus, his appetite for life, now feels dimmed, distant, or buried beneath the weight of years. Some men describe it as fatigue, others call it burnout. But what's really happening, biologically, is far more fascinating and far more reversible than most realize. Today, I want to talk to you about one small, often overlooked key to restoring that energy. A simple act done daily that reconnects you to the current that runs through your entire body. But before we get to that, let's start with a story. Several years ago, a man named Robert came to see me. He was 57, a retired engineer, sharp-minded, methodical, and deeply frustrated. "I don't feel like myself anymore," he said. "I'm not sick, but I'm not well either. My body feels heavy, my thoughts foggy, my energy drained. Even walking upstairs feels like a chore." Now, Robert's medical tests were mostly fine. His heart was steady, cholesterol manageable, hormones within normal range. But he looked tired, almost disconnected from his own body. So I asked him a simple question: how often do you touch your body with awareness? He frowned, unsure what I meant. "Touch? You mean like stretching?" I smiled. "No, I mean, how often do you connect with your own body in a conscious, intentional way? How often do you remind your nervous system that it's alive?" That question changed everything for him, because what we discovered was that Robert's problem wasn't just physical, it was neurological. The signals between his brain and body were fading like static on a weak radio channel. The body was functioning, but the flow of energy, blood, and nerve activity had slowed, especially through one critical region that few people ever think to care for: the lower abdominal area just below the navel, known in both Eastern and Western traditions as the body's core battery. Ancient Chinese medicine calls this the Danshan, the field of energy where life force or qi is stored. Modern neuroscience describes it differently, but with striking parallels. This region houses major nerve plexuses, especially the solar plexus and the pelvic plexus, which serve as communication hubs between your gut, reproductive organs, and brain. And here's the astonishing part: massaging a single point connected to this system, located midway between the navel and the pubic bone, can stimulate blood flow, awaken nerve activity, and restore hormonal and vascular balance in ways that ripple throughout the entire body. Now, I know that sounds almost too simple. But simplicity, as we often forget, is nature's most profound design. When Robert began massaging this point daily, just for 1 minute each morning, he didn't expect much. But within 3 weeks, he noticed he was waking up earlier, naturally. His digestion improved, his lower back tension gone. He even said with a grin, "My wife thinks I've found some secret potion." But there was no potion, only the rediscovery of the body's innate intelligence. Let's pause and unpack what's really happening here, because this isn't magic, it's biology at its most elegant. When you stimulate this particular region, what anatomists call the conception vessel 6 point, or CV6, you activate a complex web of sensory nerves that link directly to the vagus nerve and the autonomic nervous system. This in turn influences the adrenal glands, testosterone production, and vascular dilation, the very systems responsible for your stamina, energy, and sense of vitality. It's a chain reaction. A 1 minute massage here increases microcirculation, which boosts oxygen delivery to nearby organs. It also triggers the release of nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes blood vessels and improves the body's overall energy flow. For men over 50, whose microvascular health tends to decline, this single act becomes like flipping the switch on a dimmed power grid. But here's what's even more compelling. This area also communicates directly with your enteric nervous system, the Second brain, within your gut. Every time you massage that point, you're not just moving tissue, you're recalibrating communication between the brain and the body. You're reminding your system, wake up. Circulate, remember who you are. This is why Eastern healers have, for centuries, referred to this region as the seat of life energy, because it governs not only physical strength, but emotional stability, focus, and presence. Now, I can already hear the skeptical voices. How can touching one point do all that? The answer lies in something modern medicine often overlooks: the body's neurovascular feedback loops. Think of your body as a vast network of highways, blood vessels, lymph channels, nerve fibers, all carrying signals. Over time, stress, poor posture, and emotional strain create traffic jams. In these pathways, blood flow slows, nerves become less responsive. The communication lines between your brain and body weaken. By massaging this one spot, you're not fixing the body from the outside, you're reopening the channels from within. Let me tell you about another patient, Samir, age 63. A lifelong businessman, always on the move, rarely rested. He came to me after years of fatigue and mild erectile dysfunction. I've tried supplements, workouts, even meditation, he said, but nothing sticks. I told him, you've strengthened your body, but you haven't reconnected with it. He started practicing this 1-minute massage every morning, slowly, mindfully, with deep breathing. Within a month, his blood pressure dropped by 10 points, his mood lifted, and his wife told me, half jokingly, whatever you told him to do, keep it up. But the real shift came from within. It's strange, Samir said one day. I feel centered again, like my body's talking to me. That's the essence of vitality, communication. The body isn't just a collection of organs, it's an ecosystem of conversations. And when you silence those conversations, through neglect, stress, or simple disconnection, you lose more than energy, you lose aliveness. Now, the modern scientific community is finally beginning to catch up with this understanding. Studies in neurovascular physiology show that gentle, localized pressure in the lower abdominal region increases parasympathetic activity, the part of your nervous system responsible for rest, digestion, and hormonal recovery. It's the opposite of the fight or flight mode that most men live in daily. When you activate that parasympathetic system, your body begins to heal itself. Your blood vessels open, your cells repair, your mind slows down, and most importantly, your mitochondria, the tiny energy factories in every cell, start producing ATP more efficiently, giving you the vitality that pharmaceuticals can't mimic. This is why I often say energy is not something you gain, it's something you unblock. So let's think about this for a moment. If 1 minute of intentional touch can reactivate the body's most vital communication systems, what else might be possible when we begin treating our bodies not as machines, but as living, responsive instruments of energy? You see, the body isn't against you. It's always waiting for you to listen, to reconnect, to remember that healing doesn't always require adding something new. Sometimes it simply requires removing the block that's been keeping your natural vitality dormant. And that block, for many men over 50, isn't in their cells. It's in their awareness, because most of us were taught that our bodies are like cars. They wear down, they lose horsepower, they inevitably decline. But your body is not a machine, it's an orchestra. And every time you bring awareness to one part of it, you invite the whole symphony to retune itself. I'll never forget what Robert told me 6 months after beginning this simple practice. He came to my office, glowing, not metaphorically, but visibly more alive. It's like I've recharged from the inside out, he said. I didn't change my diet, I didn't start new supplements. I just started listening. He wasn't exaggerating. His blood markers had improved. His testosterone levels had risen naturally. His resting heart rate had dropped. The body had remembered how to heal itself once communication was restored. And here's the profound truth. Your energy, your vitality, your drive, they were never lost. They were simply waiting for you to return to them. When you look at the biology of aging through this lens, it changes everything. We've been conditioned to think that vitality fades with the passage of time, that testosterone drops, blood flow slows, mitochondria weaken, and that this is an inevitable slide toward decline. But research in the past decade has shown us something radically hopeful. Decline is not destiny. Much of what we associate with aging is not a result of years, but a stagnation. The body's rivers, the circulation, lymphatic flow, and neural communication simply start moving more slowly. When those currents are blocked, energy diminishes. But the astonishing part is how quickly those rivers begin to move again once the dam is lifted. When you perform this 1-minute daily massage, placing your fingers gently on that point below the navel, breathing deeply into your abdomen, and moving in slow, circular motions, you are quite literally reactivating that flow. It's like turning on a faucet that's been rusted shut. The first few seconds you feel nothing, then warmth, then tingling. That's the awakening of microcirculation, capillaries, and nerve endings saying, "We're back." Let me tell you about another man, Harold, age 70, a retired school principal, soft-spoken, logical, skeptical. He came to a workshop I led, sat in the back row, and kept his arms crossed most of the time. I noticed his hesitation. After the session, he came up to me and said, "I've had 3 back surgeries. I don't believe in this energy stuff, but I haven't felt real vitality in 20 years. I said, "Give it a week." He went home and tried the practice each morning. A week later, I got an email. "My back feels looser. My sleep is deeper. I feel lighter." A month later, another message. "I walk my dog now without pain. My legs feel stronger. My wife says I look 10 years younger." Now, Harold didn't become a believer in ancient philosophy overnight. What he became a believer in was his own body. He experienced firsthand the intelligence that lives within his tissues, the power that doesn't age, it only hides beneath neglect. You see, there's something incredibly profound about touch, especially self-touch. From a neuroscience perspective, touch is the first language your body ever learned. Long before you spoke, long before you thought, your nervous system learned to interpret safety, warmth, and connection through physical contact. When you touch yourself consciously, you reactivate that primordial conversation. You tell your body, "I am here, I am listening." The brain responds to that. It releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and dopamine, the motivation molecule. Those neurochemicals don't just affect your mood, they influence your heart, your digestion, your hormones, and your immune system. So when you perform this massage daily, it's not a mechanical act. It's a form of dialogue between your conscious mind and your cellular intelligence. This is why I often say vitality isn't a pill you swallow, it's a relationship you rebuild. When men cross 50, they often start to feel alienated from their own vitality, as though their energy has moved out and left them behind. But vitality isn't gone, it's simply waiting for your attention. And that attention, that daily 1-minute ritual, becomes more than a massage. It becomes a gateway, a reminder that healing isn't an external event, it's an internal remembering. Now, let's go a bit deeper into what's happening at the molecular level when you stimulate this point. The human body has about 37 trillion cells, each powered by mitochondria, tiny organelles that generate energy in the form of ATP. When blood flow diminishes, oxygen delivery to those mitochondria declines, and ATP production slows. That's when fatigue sets in, mental fog thickens, and physical recovery becomes sluggish. But when you stimulate circulation, even locally, you increase oxygenation and nutrient delivery to those cells. The mitochondria come back online, ATP levels rise, and suddenly, your body feels charged. But that's only half of it. There's also a hormonal cascade. Gentle stimulation of this lower abdominal region influences the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the hormonal communication line between your brain and reproductive organs. It's subtle but powerful. Consistent activation of this region helps regulate testosterone production, improves insulin sensitivity, and supports vascular elasticity. That's why men who practice this regularly often report not just higher energy, but also greater confidence, better mood stability, improved focus, and even rekindled intimacy. Because when your hormones begin to rebalance naturally, your sense of self does too. I remember a man named David, 61, who told me, "It's like I'm seeing the world in color again." He had spent years in gray, tired, uninspired, withdrawn. Within weeks of daily practice, his color returned, literally and figuratively. "I didn't realize how numb I'd become," he said. "That numbness is the quiet epidemic of modern manhood. Disconnection. We numb to pain, to stress, to disappointment. But in numbing, we also block vitality. When you reawaken the body through touch, you're reawakening the capacity to feel. And to feel is to live." It's interesting. When I look at ancient healing traditions, they all share one idea: that energy must flow. Whether it's chi, prana, or bioelectric current, stagnation equals decay. Modern science now confirms this. Every chronic disease, from cardiovascular decline to cognitive dysfunction, is linked to impaired circulation and cellular stagnation. And yet, in this 1-minute ritual, you're doing something profound. You're restoring movement to stillness. When I teach this to groups of men, I often watch something beautiful happen. At first, there's awkwardness, a nervous laugh, a hesitation. But within minutes, silence fills the room. They close their eyes, breathe, and you can see their faces soften. For many, it's the first time in years they've actually felt the pulse of their own life force. That's the moment healing begins. Not when you understand the science, but when you experience the presence. From a neurological standpoint, something extraordinary occurs here too. Your body's sensory map, the homunculus in your brain, starts to light up. Regions that have gone quiet over decades of neglect begin firing again. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire, gets stimulated. In essence, you're expanding your brain's awareness of your own body. That's why many men say, "I feel more grounded," or "I feel centered." They literally are. Their brain and body are reuniting. And as that reconnection deepens, so does everything else. Sleep improves, anxiety decreases, even cravings diminish because your body no longer seeks external stimuli to fill the void of disconnection. There's another fascinating physiological effect: improved lymphatic drainage. The lymph system, your body's detox network, relies entirely on movement to function. Gentle massage in this area activates lymph flow through the pelvic and abdominal regions, helping clear metabolic waste, reduce inflammation, and strengthen immune response. That's why so many men notice fewer digestive issues, less bloating, and greater lightness in the body after a few weeks. But what touches me most about this practice isn't the science, it's the transformation in the eyes of those who commit to it. You can see it. That spark, that quiet power returning. I once worked with a man named Ken, 68, who had lost his wife to cancer. He told me, "I feel like the life went out of me the day she died." He was pale, withdrawn, heavy in grief. I didn't push him to do much. I simply asked him to sit each morning, breathe, and gently massage that same point, thinking of gratitude for being alive. Months later, when he returned, he was smiling again. "I don't know if I healed," he said, "but I feel her when I do this. I feel connected again, to her, to myself, to life." That's the secret few understand. Energy and emotion are intertwined. When you reopen the body's energy pathways, you also reopen the emotional ones. That's why vitality feels like peace. Because it's not just about strength, it's about wholeness. Men especially are rarely taught how to listen to their bodies. We're told to push through, to endure, to conquer. But the truth is, Vitality doesn't come from force, it comes from flow. You don't need to dominate your body, you need to cooperate with it. And so, this 1 minute ritual becomes a daily act of partnership between your mind and your flesh, your intention and your biology. You become, again, the conductor of your inner orchestra. Every man who practices this will experience it differently. Some feel warmth immediately. Others notice subtle emotional releases, memories resurfacing, old tensions dissolving. But every one of them, in time, finds the same truth. Energy returns not through effort, but through reconnection. So when you go home tonight, remember this: vitality is not something you chase, it's something you remember. The current of life never left you, it's been waiting quietly for your touch. Begin tomorrow morning. Find a quiet space. Place your fingers gently below your navel. Breathe slowly. Feel your abdomen rise and fall. Move in small, mindful circles. Don't think of it as therapy. Think of it as reunion. And as you do, notice the subtle pulse that awakens, the warmth that spreads, the stillness that grows inside you. That's your life force reawakening. The same force that once made you run, dream, love, and create. It's still there. It's always been there, 1 minute a day. That's all it takes to remind your body who it is, and to remind your spirit how alive it still can be. And when you feel that spark again, when you sense that current humming beneath your skin, you'll know something profound: aging was never the enemy. Forgetfulness was, because vitality isn't lost with time, it's lost with disconnection. And every time you reconnect, with awareness, with breath, with your own hands, you reclaim not just energy, but yourself. So gentlemen, start small, touch that one spot, breathe life back into your core. You don't need to fight time, you just need to remind time who you are. Because beneath the years, beneath the noise, beneath everything, there is still that same river of strength that carried you through your youth. And it's still flowing, quietly, waiting for you to return. Thank you.